What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Mike Beck. He is back on the Bottom Line View. We are here to discuss the Houston Texans and the Miami Dolphins here on Thursday Night Football. Week number 8, the Houston Texans take it 42-23. They now advance to 5-3 and are getting a little bit more comfortable in first place in the AFC South, while the Miami Dolphins drop another game with Brock Osweiller at quarterback. They are now 4-4. Now, not out of anything right now because the AFC wildcard positioning is still very up in the air. So, Miami's still hanging around, but after this performance, I think a lot of people are going to start counting Miami out of the running, even if Ryan Tannehill comes back healthy and ready to go. But I think a lot of what we're going to talk about here today, Mike, is Deshaun Watson and is the Houston Texans. So I want you to start it off. What did you think of this game, and what did you think of those Texans?
For starters, I wouldn't say it was a disappointing game per se, but kind of exactly what I thought would happen. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from Brock Osweiler, but I don't know. Maybe I was being a little ambitious there. Well, he did play well.
You were expecting. Wait. You said you were expecting more from Brock Osweiler. You were expecting anything from him?
Yeah, I was expecting maybe a little bit more. Like, I wasn't expecting Danny Amendola to be their best quarterback of the night, but I was expecting a bit more. But the Texans, Deshaun Watson really had his bounce back game of the year. After his ACL last year, I don't know, he seemed a little timid throughout the early part of the year, but that's to be expected, especially with the quarterback having to stand there in the pocket, have your knees kind of exposed. You gotta kind of just overcome mentally. His knee might have been fine, but just coming back from an injury, it's more mental than physical at that point. So his 5 touchdown passes definitely opened it up again. DeAndre Hopkins, best receiver I'd say in the NFL right now at this point. He's playing extremely well. JJ Watt, he's another guy that's came back from an injury. He looks like a guy that's going to lead the NFL in sacks. So I don't know. Look out for those Texans. They could be making some noise come January this year. The Dolphins, I don't know when Tannehill gets healthy, maybe, but I'm not too confident in those wildcard spots belonging to, I think for certain one team from the AFC North is going to take one of those wildcard spots for sure.
And it looks like the Chargers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Chargers, and then either Baltimore, Pittsburgh, or Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's what it pretty much looks like right now. But I don't know. You can never count out, a couple of the teams, and they played well early in the season when Tannehill was there. So we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But today was not a good performance.
They'll probably have to finish around 10-6, I'd say, to make it and that's a little bit of help there too. So that right now they're already at 4-4. So that's 6-2 over the last half of the season.
Yeah. So talking about those Texans, I think you brought up that they could potentially make some noise in the playoffs, and I think that's what it's all about right now. They need to keep picking up these victories while the Jaguars and the Titans are struggling to kind of further themselves away from the competition in their own division. And once they get comfortable enough, I think we can start talking about them as the Texans being a good playoff team and being a threat. I think before the year, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had them in the playoffs?
I have my sheet here. Let me pull it up here.
I certainly
have the Texans as the 5 seed.
Yeah, so I certainly did. And before the year, I think we were both talking about this team as being potentially a dark horse team in this conference because of what they can do down the field with big plays with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller even got hurt again in this game. And just, that talent of Deshaun Watson and the wild card and really what he brings to the table. And then also some of the defensive players, the studs that they have on that side of the ball. And I think that sort of came together in this game the most of any game we've seen this season. So going over some of those big performers, Deshaun Watson was 16 for 20, only 16 for 20. He only threw 20 passes, but he did convert to 239 yards and 5 touchdowns. If you can do the math, that is one more touchdown than incompletions. So he had 156 passer rating in this game. Not bad. Lamar Miller on the ground, something that the Texans have not had since Deshaun Watson's become the quarterback of this team, including last year, a running game, 7.4 yards per carry, 133 yards on 18 rushes and a touchdown. So they really got the run game going, which opened up the deep pass to Will Fuller, who really took advantage with 5 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown. And then later on, when Fuller kind of got banged up and left the game, DeAndre Hopkins started to make things happen, even against a tough matchup in Xavier Howard, 6 catches, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, with those 2 receivers on the field, with Deshaun Watson playing the way he did in this game, and then with a running game, this offense is pretty much impossible to stop. So you want to see Fuller be a little healthier. Actually, only 4 receivers actually caught the ball. One was a tight end, one was a running back. So Hopkins and Fuller only caught the ball, and then Irvin caught 1 pass, and Jordan Thomas, their rookie tight end, I think he's a rookie tight end, caught 4 for 29. Defensively, you brought up J.J. Watt, 1 sack. Tyrann Mathieu had a sack as well. And I want to touch on Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's been a huge part of their success this year. From the first game against the Patriots, he immediately made an impact. I think he's really helped the secondary. And even from the leadership standpoint, he's really taken charge. You can see the videos on Instagram in the huddle, pumping his teammates up. I think this team immediately really took to Tyrann Mathieu, and he's proven that he is one of the best safeties in the game, and all he can do and his versatility is really showing through and helping the secondary out. Jadeveon Clowney was a little quiet in this game. He has not had the greatest of seasons so far. Zach Cunningham did get banged up in this game. Jonathan Joseph left the game, so there's a little bit of injury concerns there. Whitney Merciless was not really, there at all. And McKinney had 6 tackles. So anything you want to touch on in terms of the big performers in this game for either side of the ball for the Texans side?
I would say for the Texans, looking at the defensive side, which you can't really say for a lot of teams, is they're able to get after the quarterback without blitzing. There's not, like, the Steelers aren't doing it, the Pats aren't doing it, Chiefs aren't doing it. Like, who else is able to not blitz and still get to the quarterback in the AFC?
Maybe the Chargers with Joey Bosa.
That's really it, and he's got to be healthy to play. So right now, that's a huge threat.
And you could probably say the Ravens.
Yeah, that is fair to a certain degree.
Because they are the number 1 defense, so they might have some capability to get after the quarterback.
Absolutely. However, I think this Texans team is like a whole nother level of actually getting there without sending blitzes. But when they do, they have the talent to bring Tyrann Mathieu up to the line, send him, Merciless, whoever. They really have like talented guys around that front 7 and in their secondary that they're able to send. Or if they want to just rush 4, rush 3, they're still able to collapse the pocket and force the quarterback to throw before he's ready. So that's a huge thing that the Texans have going for him. I thought J.J. Watt was going to start slumping after a few injury-riddled years, but hell, he could be another close to 20 sacks again in his career. He is been a stud. So like obviously on pace for 16, but you have one J.J. Watt,
especially Mike, in a year where a defense has been non-existent.
Exactly. Like defense has basically disappeared from the NFL this year. Like, and it's noticeable compared to last season. So that's something prominent in this season. But then the Texans are pretty much one of the only teams right now that are almost able to avoid that. So look for them, especially playing good defense in the playoffs. That is something that will take you to the Super Bowl. You can pull off some of those gritty type games, grind them out, beat them up, get on to the next round. So the Texans are someone I would look at as a potential bracket spoiler in the AFC.
I would say, though, I think that more than ever, we've seen that if you want to play well on the road, you need to have a good offense. I think more than anything, if you're going to win on the road, you need to be able to score points, because I feel like once you're taken away from your home stadium and you have the crowd and effect and all that stuff, defense sort of, especially in today's age of NFL, sort of fades on the road. And I feel like if the Texans are operating at this pace on offense, then they can beat anybody on the road, which I think they're going to have to do in the AFC. I don't think they're going to be a team with a bye or anything. So I think they're going to have to be a road team. And that being said, a combination of a pass rush on defense and then a team that can make big plays, I think is crucial. I would say I wasn't overly excited about their defense in this game. I mean, they made some plays, and I understand that it's 2018 and no defense is really perfect, but to make a lot of big plays were made against this defense down the field with Brock Osweiler, and I thought they got taken advantage of a little bit in the screen game and stuff like that. And I understand Brock Osweiler finished with a 65.3 passer rating, but he did have 241 yards, and he did have, hit some big plays down the field. Devontae Parker had 134 yards. Jakeem Grant had a couple big plays. So, and I feel like Osweiller honestly missed a couple plays. So I don't know. I'm still a little bit concerned about the Texans secondary, and I still feel like they could cover a little bit better. And maybe they should trade for somebody at the deadline, like a corner or a safety or somebody. But definitely their defense is solid. It's not bad by any means, but I do feel like that secondary can be taken advantage of if you do get the time, which is key. For the Dolphins, Brock Osweiler, he did make a couple plays. He played better than I thought he would. I know Mike said he was expecting more out of him in this game. I'm not a heist fan, Brock Osweiler. I never been a Brock Osweiler fan. He did throw an interception, no touchdowns, but he did execute the offense well. I thought Gase put him in some good situations, some good play calls, got him going early on, got him some confidence, and the run game was okay. I mean, Kenyon Drake, 4.8 yards per carry, 58 yards on 12 carries, and then Frank Gore, 12 carries as well, 53 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. I do want to ask, what do you think of that split backfield? Do you think that Drake should be getting more carries, Gore should be getting more carries, or are you fine with the 12 carries each sort of thing?
It's interesting when you're rolling backs, like they are two completely different styles. Yeah. But I thought coming into the end of last year, I thought Kenyon Drake was really kind of breaking out. Mm-hmm. If you gave him 24 carries, of course, you add up their stats, he's breaking 100 yards, but could he have had 150 yards tonight? That's possible. Like, he's a guy that can come out of the backfield, catch some passes. You don't really rely on running backs to make too many blocks in the passing game anymore. Maybe just a chip and then leak out in the flat, or just run a tight hook near the line of scrimmage. So it's tough when you have a guy like Frank Gore. You're not going to just sit him on the bench. That's not why you bring him in. And clearly that would make him upset. So they kind of backed themselves in the corner, I'd say, when they brought them in. But if this is his swan song year, then whatever. But I don't think you carry Frank Gore in next year. I think you got to make Kenyon Drake your guy. And then maybe bring someone else in, a late draft pick maybe, or just someone off the road in free agency, someone that you could give just like 2-3 carries a game just to change a pace guy. But I think Kenyon Drake is someone that's poised to break out, and he should get a few more touches.
Yeah, I agree. Like at the end of last year, I thought he was the best thing going for them on offense. And I'm genuinely surprised that he hasn't gotten any more touches than he has so far this year. Even in games where he's had some really impressive outings, he hasn't been given any more opportunity than the previous game. Like, he'll have a big game, one game, and then he'll still get the same amount of opportunity. And Frank Gore just kind of chugs away. And it's not like Frank Gore is playing bad. I think he's playing really good for his age. But
especially at running back,
I think Kenyon Drake deserves at least 18 carries, at least 70% of the carry load. I think he definitely deserves that. I think you could put Frank Gore in certain situations, and that might even make Frank Gore better. So, and I think, Kenyon Drake in the backfield, out of the backfield as a pass catcher is really good. We saw today he scored a touchdown, 37 yards. So that's something that I don't quite understand from the Dolphins' offensive point of view. You're arguably keeping your best weapon on the sidelines for too many plays, where I think he should be playing a little bit more. Devontae Parker was nice to see healthy and out there. I've never been a huge Devontae Parker guy, but obviously had a big game here. Amendola over the past couple of weeks has been giving something to this team. That's nice to see because I'm a big Amendola fan, as you guys know. Jakeem Grant, I think, he's kind of developed into a punt returner, into a receiver. He does make a couple of big plays. He's good in the screen game, but he's not really a full. They definitely miss Kenny Stills. Without Kenny Stills, they don't really have that guy that can run the full route tree and kind of get down the field. They're kind of a bunch of gimmick receivers, or certain very role niche receivers. Like Amendola is a slot receiver. Parker is kind of the down the field threat. I guess he would be considered the most well-rounded. And Grant is a guy you want to get in space. They don't really have anybody that's a full well-rounded receiver without Kenny Stills. But I think Gase does do a good job with the offense. Defensively, they really struggled to get after the quarterback, and they really struggled to contain Watson in this game. And I think Xavier Howard played really, really well for most of this game on DeAndre Hopkins. But when you're covering that long, you just get tired after a while. And I think a lot of that goes to Deshaun Watson. We were saying, you were saying earlier Deshaun Watson didn't exactly look healthy the first few weeks. I totally agree. I tweeted out during the game, he looks 100% healthy. He has his speed back. He has his legs back. And it's tough for any defense to contain him. But the Dolphins, like, they've had consistent issues getting after the quarterback. And really, they haven't been a terrible defense this year, but their defensive line seriously has not come to play this year, in my opinion. So they definitely need to fix that, or moving forward, maybe trade for somebody, sign somebody in the offseason, but they need help at that spot.
See, I wouldn't say the Dolphins should go out this year at the deadline and get someone.
Yeah.
Because fringe playoff team really is their ceiling right now. And then to your point with covering DeAndre Hopkins, when your quarterback has 4, 5, 6 seconds to throw the ball, it really doesn't matter who the receiver is. Eventually,
and it doesn't matter who the corners are either.
Exactly. Eventually, it's going to break down. It might not be getting tired. It's just at the point of progression of a route, just being able to go into different breaks, coming back to the ball. Like, you cannot stick like glue on a person that long. It really doesn't matter unless it was some Joe off the street.
Maybe if it was Ryan Hodley, they could.
There you go. That's probably the one, but he would probably also be jammed at the line of scrimmage for about 15 minutes. So I wouldn't expect too much from Berger, but no, for sure. Especially DeAndre Hopkins, if you're covering him for more than 3 seconds, he's going to be open. Like, if I'm a quarterback, I'm going through my progression 1, 2, 3, just throw it in his direction. Like, he'll have some sort of separation or could win a jump ball at that point. So that's really it's hard when you're given. Well, with Watson, he's able to escape the pocket and create even more time. So that makes Hopkins more dangerous. So that's that's something he's never had.
Because Hopkins isn't a guy that, to me, immediately creates separation. Like, he's more of a guy that relies on his hands and his body positioning to make a lot of catches. And then once Watson's able to give him that time, then he creates a lot of separation because he's very savvy. But, like, I feel like he's not a guy that, like Antonio Brown or like Odell, for example, will create immediate separation. And it's easier to target those guys because they create that separation. But with Hopkins, he's more about his body positioning and his catching radius. And then after that long period of time, he can get open, and that makes him even better. So, so let's look at the Texans schedule, and then we'll go to the chat and we'll wrap it up. I just wanted to look at the Texans schedule to see what we think they could potentially wrap up as. And it appears that they don't have a very difficult schedule. Next up, they have the Broncos in Denver, which, of course, the Denver Broncos play 9 home games a year. So they play there. I don't know. That could be an interesting game, I guess. We'll see the Broncos this week against the Chiefs. That will be good. They then play Washington in Washington, which I would say is a difficult game. Then they play at home against the Titans, which they should win that game. They play at home against the Browns. They should win that game. They play home against the Colts. They should win that game, even though Andrew Luck has had a lot of success against the Texans. Then they play on the road against the Jets, which I would say that's a winnable game. They play on the road against the Eagles, and who knows what they're playing like. And then week 17 is at home against the Jags. So I don't know. Looking at the schedule, I think they could win every one of these games. They probably won't. I would say they might end up 11-5 or 10-6. What do you think, Mike?
No, that's definitely fair. There's going to be some games, especially with the younger team, a sophomore quarterback, that they're not gimmies. So there's definitely some situations that they're going to go into some hostile territories, and like winning on the road isn't easy in the NFL. Like, going to Denver is not easy. Going to Washington, not easy. Andrew Luck is a quality quarterback, and if he can get some help from a single receiver,
well, T.Y.'s back, so
which helps immensely. But he's a guy that's good enough to steal a game. So there's no gimmies. Are they going to run the table? Probably not. But they are primed to win this division. There's no reason why they shouldn't. Unless
the Jaguars somehow get some great quarterback.
Unless they manage to get Derek Carr.
Because I don't believe in the Titans at all. No. So that's just me. Let's go to the chat. So Rob says, does Matt Burke get fired tomorrow? Who's Matt Burke?
Like, are we talking the center from Baltimore years ago?
Oh, the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. I didn't even know his name. So good on you, Rob. No, he won't get fired.
The guy from the Ravens? This guy?
That's the funny thing. I've seen him so many times, but I never knew his name.
Wait, he's what? Like,
he's the
are we talking the same
coordinator.
guy here? Matt Burke.
Matt Burke is an American football coach who's currently the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins.
I was thinking Matt Burke, the former Baltimore Ravens Pro Bowl center.
No. So we didn't know who Matt Burke is. But now that we do know, and I've seen him a million times, I don't think so, because they've played relatively well over the course of the season. And I don't think he's dealing with a ton of talent. Like, you look at the depth chart of Miami, they're rather old, or they're just not that great. So I don't know. I don't think so. And I don't think the issue with the Dolphins is their defense. I don't even think their issue with the Dolphins is their coaching. I think a lot of it is talent, just in general.
Play.
I think they're an average team and quarterback play. I don't see how you look at the Dolphins on paper and you're like, wow, this team's really not performing to the level that they should be performing. Nick,
you're only as good as your talent, and if your GM's not bringing in the right talent, it's hard to blame a coach for having crappy players. That's just it's just football 101, really.
Nick Martinez says, Texans, baby, we're going streaking. All right, have fun doing that. Coach says Texans look good, but look who they've played. Need to be more consistent. That's a fair point.
Well,
they haven't
Watson
really
is
beaten anyone great.
Watson's looking comfortable, though, so that's the difference between the last 7 games and this one.
Sometimes, especially now, like in the NFL, like I feel like we've seen, this is my opinion, Mike, but maybe you could speak on this as well. I've said this a lot. I feel like in the early 2000s, like mid 2000s, when we started watching football, I felt like there were a lot more elite teams in the NFL. And now I feel like to the degree of like, if teams just start rattling off wins, you just got to call them good at a certain point. No matter like if they won 20-19, like 6-3, like at a certain point, you got to call them good. And like back in like, I think like that era, like the Patriots, Steelers, Chargers, Colts, like Eagles, like those teams were all very legit. Like all of them were really, really good. Today, I feel like there's not a lot of well-balanced all-around teams anymore because of the way the NFL is. And I feel like like the Texans have rattled off like 5 straight wins.
Is it really that much?
Yeah.
What's their record right now?
5-3.
They started 0-3, really?
I think so.
Huh, interesting. No, but that's any team that can win 5 straight, that's impressive in the NFL.
Yeah, so they've won 5 straight. I mean, it doesn't matter who they played to me. If you win 5 straight, you're a pretty good team. You're at least pretty good. You might not be great, but Predator says Brock did not play that bad again. What do you think of that?
I mean, like he didn't play.
What did you think of that play? Was it a fumble or not? I thought it was a fumble.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with the fumble. Just the way it like kind of like fell out of his hand. It wasn't like thrown out of his hand. It like was squished out. To me, that's a fumble. I don't know.
I just don't know why a quarterback would go like this in his motion, and then you call it a pass.
Oh yeah, especially because he's like bringing it back in.
Yeah, who's throwing the ball backwards? And the reffing overall was bad.
Yeah, it was. Especially the day a ref got fired.
Coach says AFC is full of weak teams. I don't understand this argument. I actually think the AFC might be just as good as the NFC this year.
Yeah, I think the top is like for sure. Like the Chiefs, I would say they're on par with the Rams right now until like I don't know. I like,
and you got the Patriots and the Ravens could have beat the Saints.
Yeah.
If Justin Tucker doesn't miss his first extra point in 250 attempts, it would have been a tie game going into overtime. And the Saints are a top 3 team in the NFC. And you have the Steelers and you have the Bengals, and the Bengals beat the Panthers, for example. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the weaker teams but then you have the Giants and the Cardinals and the 49ers. I don't know if you could even say that.
No, I think there's a
Like,
lot more parity than people think. It's like when we get down to that first Sunday in February playing the Super Bowl, regardless, I think either conference could come away with the win. It's not a guaranteed NFC Super Bowl. It's not going to be a blowout. Like the teams at the top are equal. I think the teams maybe at the bottom would favor the AFC. Like Cleveland's starting to do some stuff now. The Jets aren't
Colts.
that terrible. The Colts, yeah, exactly. Like look at the teams at the bottom of the divisions.
I guess the Raiders, but the Raiders are like the Raiders have like basically traded everyone to become this bad.
Yeah, no, like they shouldn't have been this bad to begin with. But
and even the Bills have 2 wins.
Yeah, I thought the Bills could legitimately go 0-16.
And they have Derek Anderson at quarterback, who was, by the way, a 2007 Pro Bowler. Just want to throw that.
Hey, they went 10-6 that year. Go Browns.
Okay. Alec says just traded James White and Doug Martin for Gronk, Adrian Peterson, and Josh Gordon. Well, wow, you just I want to say something, but I'm not going to say it. You did well.
You are
Predator. Wow. Yeah. Predator says anytime the Fins lose, it gets my what? Don't even understand that statement. He then says, I disagree. I think that Gore needs more touches.
Interesting. I mean, one guy's a future. One guy's
he's also a Colts fan, so I think he's a Colts fan. I'm not sure, actually. James says this win by Houston basically tells Jacksonville they have to win Sunday or their season is toast. What do you think of that?
How many more head-to-head does Jacksonville and Houston have? 1?
Yeah. I think Jacksonville won the first game.
Yeah, so I don't think it's exactly over yet. Any team can really go on a run. Like Jacksonville they still have the same pieces of the defense from last year. If they were to lose maybe 2 more straight, if they lost this Sunday and then lost again to Houston, I'd say their season's probably done. But I'm not confident.
Houston won Houston won it last week. Didn't they play last week?
Now I have to look it up. I can't remember. Houston, Jacksonville.
Oh, he's a Patriots and Bucks fan? I had no idea, Predator.
How You've been both.
I don't know. Game Spotlight TV says, I like this channel. Thank you. James says, what did James say? Jacksonville would technically be 3 games behind Houston if they lost. And Arian says something inappropriate. And that's it. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this recap from Mitch and Mike. Mike, do you want to plug anything before we leave?
If you're in the Vancouver area, 2 weeks from now, I will be working the switchboard at Sportsnet 650. So if you want to listen to your boy.
Is there anywhere they can like tune in online?
There might be a stream. I know 1040. TSN 1040 is a stream, but I'll look it up and I'll let you guys know for certain Thursday.
All right, that's cool. And anything on Twitter going on or no?
Not really too much. Just doing the same old commenting on sports. I've really been deep in the Red Sox Dodgers series. So the next 3 days when they're in, if it lasts that long, when they're in LA, you can follow along. Michael Beck 56 is the new handle. By all means, go ahead, follow me. At the end of or mid-April, I'll be doing some new stuff in Kamloops. So if you're going to follow me, just be aware it's going to be sports and news. I run both through that account until I kind of have a confirmed sports job. So that's really just kind of what I'm looking at Michael Beck 56 on Twitter.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us here on The Bottom Line View. And from Mitch and Mike, peace out.